So we're back for round 2 of the questions with Trey, and we've got young Trey Ivey sitting right here. So Trey, this one comes from Julia from Colorado, and she asks, Trey, what was your reaction and reply when Scott Fowler told you that you were the next pianist for Legacy 5?
I know where I was. I was at school. It was just a couple days after the audition. And it was a shock because I thought it was going to take a lot longer. I wasn't really expecting to hear for another week at least. But I was just really like, man, are you serious? I mean, you realize this is Trey that you've called, you know. And I was just thrilled to death. I mean, it's just, I really wanted this job, and you know, I had such admiration for the 2 piano players that came before me. You know, it was just really a dream come true in a lot of respects. So it was really exciting to get that phone call.
That's cool, and that kind of leads us to the next question. Jenny from Illinois asked, Trey, which pianist or pianists have been your greatest influence and why?
Well, I would certainly have to say Tim Parton, who was here just before me. In fact, I came on for his last 2 or 3 weekends for the group, per my request, just to, see kind of what he does and try and shape my approach based on what he did, because it's kind of what the guys were already used to. But he really went out of his way in just those 2 or 3 weeks and made a huge impact on really my abilities. I mean, he was a great influence. I mean, in just that short a time, he taught me so much. You'd also have to say somebody like Roger, who actually I never got to meet, but I've watched a lot of his videos, and just the way that he approached accompanying a group, he was just great at it. You know, he didn't overplay, but he always did just enough. That, of course, is why everybody loves him. I would also say a guy that's a studio player in Nashville, who you know, Gus, is a guy named Dirk Johnson, and he kind of took me under his wing. You know, really, it's been 4 or 5 years ago now, and let me go to sessions with him. It's something that I like to do, and I want to get more into in the future. And he was a great encouragement to me, because he's played on a lot of big albums, but he really saw potential in me and went out of his way to teach me things, teach me how charts work and how to play with a band. And so that's, of course, a different kind of approach to playing, but he was a great influence on, or he is a great influence on me as well. And I would also say, you know, the people that I've met after, you know, especially after being here, it's really introduced me to a lot of other players. Jeff Stice, Kim Collingsworth, Gerald, all of whom I have great respect for, because they all approach what they do totally different, but they are all very good at it. And there's something I can learn from each one of them. And I will also say, you know, as much as I look up to those people, each one of them have been so nice since the first time they met me, and so I appreciate folks like that as well.
That's cool. Okay, now Kathy from Tehachapi, California, asks this question. She asks, Trey, how did you end up auditioning for L5 in the first place?
Okay. Well, many of the people watching this will know. I mean, I've known Gus. We traveled together for 3 years with the Lefebvre Quartet, and when he left there, he left to come here. But when we were with the Lefebvre Quartet, we had been a couple places where Legacy 5 was on the program, and I knew then, when I watched Legacy 5, you know, they just seemed to me like a real class act. You know, like they were so professional in the way that they went about it. Not that the other groups we were around weren't. There was something to me that set Legacy 5 apart, you know. And I knew about Glenn and Scott Howard, and obviously Scott Fowler had all been here for 12 years, so this job kind of offered a great deal of stability, it seemed like, as well. It was also based in Nashville, so there was a lot about this job that really was compelling to me. And so how I came about it, well, Gus, you were here, so you probably know just as much about it as I do. But I had told Gus when he came here, I said, you know, obviously being the new guy, you know, you're not going to have any sway on personnel, but if you're ever asked, I would love the opportunity, if the opportunity ever should present itself, to have the opportunity to audition and get a look. And in fact, the way Gus tells me is when Tim did announce that he was leaving, it was actually Scott Fowler who mentioned me before it even got to Gus, because, you know, Gus was not going to be the first person to say, well, I know who you know.
Yeah, exactly.
But, and so, Gus, you actually called me and just set up an audition, kind of an interview process that they go through. And it's just kind of how it panned out. You know?
Yeah, it's funny because here we are filming this interview, and I'm interviewing you, and we are in Florida, and we were in Florida when Timmy decided that he was going to be moving on.
We're actually both in Florida.
Oh, were you in Florida as well?
We were about 30 minutes apart.
Oh my goodness, I didn't even realize that when I made the phone call. Yeah, so it's very cool. So that is great. We're going to wrap up this segment, and we will come back with a kind of a themed segment for the third one. So looking forward to it. Thanks, Trey.